Friends, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Marla, and I'm so glad that you're joining me today. Today, I'm excited to bring you this trifold pop-up card. I'm creating an anniversary card. This is part of the Scrappy Tales new release, and this is one of Sabrina's new innovative interactive card designs. So we are going to build this together for the first time. Here's a look at the trifold mechanism. It comes in two packages. The first package is going to have a large die, which is going to be one of your base layers with a tab on it. There is a second layer, which is an arch that's a little bit smaller so that you can add pattern paper to your card. And then there is the fold out flap, which is going to hold your scene. There are different pieces, tabs that will go inside there. We'll talk about these pieces when we get to the card making process. And then you're going to get one sentiment. Here's a look at the additional die cuts that I'm going to be using. I'll build these off camera. I have the ombre or the umbrella couple, and then I also have the Paris Eiffel Tower. And again, I'm creating an anniversary card, but this certainly would make a beautiful Valentine's Day card. I've cut 3 of the arches with the tabs from some Spellbinders Fruit Punch cardstock. I'm showing you that they do have the etching in those tabs, so you know that those are the fold lines. I'm going to start by folding back, and I'm going to use my bone folder. I use my bone folder quite frequently throughout this process. What it does is it reinforces those folds. It's going to break down the paper fibers just a little bit so that my card's not going to be as stiff. And as I continually reinforce these folds, it is going to allow my card to fold flat. Granted, I did not fill this to the brim. There are a lot of dies with some of these Christmas sets that are part of the release. I didn't fill mine that full, and so mine folded beautifully without using any type of magnets or a belly band or anything like that. So I just folded back, and then I did a mountain fold, a valley fold, and a mountain fold. And you can see that I have that nice, beautiful hinge. I did that to all 3 of these pieces. Now we want our arches to be the same size, and all of them do have a tab on them. So for one of the 3 pieces, you do need to cut off that tab. So I used my paper trimmer to assist me with that. I cut it as close to the curve in the arch as possible before just cutting off a smaller little piece. So I didn't want to cut into that arch, and I was trying to be very careful to make sure that I maintained that shape when I was doing my cutting. So now we're going to add some tape to the hinges, and we're going to put this mechanism together. I left this video for the most part in real time. I wanted you to see without this being sped up how this came together. I thought it was a little bit more helpful, especially since this is, a card that has a lot of different pieces and mechanisms that go with it. So here is some 1/4 inch, I believe, or 1/8 inch tape. This is double-sided adhesive, and I'm just going to run it along the edges of both of my tabs, making sure that I reinforce it with that bone folder so that it's stuck really well. If you wanted a little bit more wiggle room when you add your next arch to the tab, you certainly could add some wet glue on top of that. But what I do is I just lightly tap it down as I'm aligning it, and then I add the wet glue, and you'll see here in a minute what I'm talking about. I got this one a little bit crooked, and then my tape takes off on me, and I end up getting it on my card panel, but fortunately I was able to get it off without ripping my paper. So there was a crisis avoided. And here I'm just going to lift that up, straighten it out just a little bit, and then I'll use that bone folder again to make sure that it's adhered nice to that tab. I'll use my reverse tweezers for this first one. And we'll remove that backing, and I'm going to take the arch where I cut off. Nope, I guess I'm not. I'm going to take my middle piece, and I want to make sure that the top and the bottom are aligned beautifully. So I'm aligning that. I thought I could go ahead and fold my piece over, but no, I need to make sure that I get it in between those folds. So remember we did, 3 different folds, and so we have kind of an accordion there, and I'm just going to align it, and then I'll press it down. If you don't align these pieces, then your card is not going to stand up straight. So you need to make sure that the bottoms of these panels are really aligned nicely. Otherwise, it's going to sit wonky. So I'm going to take this other release paper off. And this is the arch without the tab. So remember, we removed the tab. And I'm going to align that. You can see that accordion. Now I'm going to close this. I'll use my bone folder to reinforce both the accordion and it's reinforcing that tape, making sure that it's adhered nicely. I'll close it again and I'll go over the accordion on the other side. So again, we're just breaking down the fibers in the paper. We want to make sure that this closes nicely and that the mechanism moves freely. So I cut 3 panels from Prima Marketing cardstock that I had in my stash. I used the smaller arch. We talked about there being 2 sized arches. This is the one which is going to allow you so that you can have pattern paper or ink blended paper on the inside, and then you're going to have that beautiful border. It just gives it a nice finished look. So I thought I was going to use the polka dot paper that you see in the center. I did know that I wanted the center paper to be a different pattern than the one on the left and the right hand side. I end up flipping it over to add some glue. And then I realized that I like the reverse side a little bit better. So that was a happy accident for me. I liked the reverse side of this middle paper. You can see it has a little bit of the roses, and I'm like, wait, wait, wait. Oh, that looks good. And then I'm going to flip it over and look again. Yep, I like that side better. So I used my liquid glue for this part. So I kind of go back and forth between using a tape runner, using adhesive tape, using liquid glue. You use what works for you. This paper is a little bit thicker, and so I just went ahead and went with the wet glue on this. I'm going to glue this last one, and then we're going to add the flap mechanism. So when you open up this card, this flap that I'm about to add, which is the one on the right side that you see with the slits, that is going to fold down, and that's going to be where our little scene, our little Paris scene is. So our couple and some hearts and a light fixture is going to come down on this piece. So it has a fold on a big tab on the back. I'm just going to reinforce that again. That will get glued to the back side of my card. So I'm going to add some double-sided adhesive tape to this. And I think this is just a little bit stickier than my tape runner, so that's why I chose to go with this tape. I think it has just a little bit more strength. There, I just tore it, or you could use your scissors. And this is going to go right in that middle section. You can see the tabs on the right. There's a straight edge and then there's a tapered edge. It really doesn't matter which edge you tuck into those slats. It's, just a personal preference of the look that you're going for. Either side can be tucked into, they fit nicely inside those slats. I turn this upside down and then I'm just going to kind of fold it, making sure that it's centered on that arch as best as I can get things centered. I like where that is. And now we're going to go ahead and lightly adhere that down, make sure that it works properly. So just trying to get that straight, making sure that I like the alignment. Yep, that's moving freely. Now I'm going to reinforce it with my bone folder. So now you can see how that little mechanism is just going to, when I open up the card, it's just going to fall down. And now we're going to add the tabs. So I'm going to do the same thing. There's fold lines on the tabs. I'm going to go ahead and fold it, and then I'll use my tape runner across. I think I ended up putting the flat pieces through, but I'm going to use my tape runner on one side of this, and then I'll just stick them through the slats. And then we're just going to use that bone folder again to reinforce that tape onto the back of that flap. So you can see that this really isn't hard. It's not difficult to put this together. It definitely is a little bit more time consuming because of all the die cutting that I did. Off camera, I put together my Parisian scene, so I didn't, I just wanted to show you how this comes together. Um, I didn't want to make this a super long video by showing the process of me doing the interior pieces as well. So here's how I want to finish the card. Now you can see that there's the tabs that are on the back side that are showing from the flaps that I had to glue down. I cut 3 more pieces of cardstock. I used that large arch die, and now I'm going to cut the tabs off of each of them. So all 3 of them, I'm going to cut those tabs off. And I want to make sure that when I'm gluing this down, that what should be the front of that arch, what would be the front of the panel, that's the side I want to put the glue on. If you put it on the opposite way, what would sound normal to put it on the back side of that die cut, if you do it that way, it doesn't align properly. Now, I did one and I put it on the back side and I thought it was going to align just fine, and it didn't. I ended up cutting that out just for the sake of time. So I cut another one of the panels out, and then I added the glue to what would be the front side, added it to the back side of my arch, and there it aligned nicely. Now, this is an extra step that you don't have to take if you don't care about those tabs showing in the background. I just liked the clean finish of this, and so I went ahead and I just cut those panels. So here's where we're going to use our tape runner and add those little slats. And let's see which side I ended up putting it on. I put it on the tapered side. Okay. So I went ahead and put it on the bottom of the tapered side. I'm going to slide this in. I'm going to fold it over. And then again, I believe I used my bone folder to reinforce everything. So I'm going to get all of my pieces on first. So just adding that tape runner to the tapered side. There we go. Tucking it into that slat. It goes in nice and easy. And then there's 2 long ones and there's 1 short one for the front. So you want to make sure you can see that the slat is smaller on the front. So you want to go ahead and make sure that you add the smallest tab on that front slat. I'm going to tuck this under. I'm just making sure that I have the middle one glued down because I don't think that I had actually finished sticking it down. Lining those up. And then this is going to be the final one. And then I'll use my bone folder to reinforce everything. Now, when I put my card together, I want to talk about that a little bit. There are little spacers you can see on the right-hand side. There's little spacers that you can use to kind of reinforce each of those areas. So that would go right in between. I didn't end up using those, but what I ended up doing, here's my finished card, is I ended up adding an extra piece of patterned paper to the front. I added the happy anniversary with the heart. And then I left this white so you can write your message right there. You can see my Eiffel Tower scene on the left-hand side, and then I have my other scene that fits in the center. So what I ended up doing here is I ended up using some acetate, and I thought that the acetate just reinforced those pieces a little bit better. And I used the acetate behind both the couple, the lamppost, and then both of my hearts. I added some additional hearts on the right side, and then I had that die cut I love you to finish off the card. So I really like how this turned out. I think that it's just a really beautiful showpiece. It's so difficult. I'm just trying to show you the inside, how, it all came together so that you can see those acetate flaps. But here's what it would look like when it was standing up. And then I am going to have one picture here at the end. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that it helped you. If you do have this trifold pop-up, if you don't, you can get on the waiting list over at the Scrappy Tail Craft Store. I will have it linked in the description box below. I want to thank you so much for joining me today. Until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day. Thanks for watching.